Do you keep your indoor cat's food bowl constantly full, thinking you're being a generous provider? You believe free feeding shows love and prevents hunger anxiety. But veterinarians are now calling this single habit one of the most damaging things you can do to an indoor cat, contributing to a silent epidemic that's cutting cats' lives short by years. The heartbreaking truth is that your cat's natural instincts are being systematically violated by modern indoor living. And the 7 mistakes we're about to reveal are so common that 90% of indoor cat owners make at least 5 of them. Each one creates measurable physical or psychological damage, but the last mistake, the one vets say does the most harm, will completely change how you understand your responsibility as a cat owner. If you love your indoor cat, watch until the end, because the final mistake is the one that surprised even experienced veterinarians. That bowl sitting on your kitchen floor, the one you refill whenever it gets low, seems like the most loving thing you could do. You're making sure your cat never experiences hunger. You're being a good provider. But here's what's actually happening. You're systematically destroying your cat's biological programming and creating a health crisis that's now affecting 60% of indoor cats. Your cat evolved as an intermittent feeder, an animal designed to hunt 10 to 20 small prey items throughout the day and night. Each hunt triggered a metabolic cycle, energy expenditure, sharp focus, the reward of eating, then rest. This rhythm regulated everything: their weight, their insulin response, their mental stimulation, their sense of purpose. Free feeding eliminates all of it. There's no hunt, no metabolic variation, no biological purpose. Just a bowl that's always full and a cat whose body no longer understands when to stop eating because stopping was never part of their survival strategy. The Journal of Feline Medicine published research in 2019 showing that this single change in feeding pattern is the primary driver of the obesity epidemic in indoor cats. 60% are now overweight or obese. This isn't just aesthetics. We're talking about diabetes, joint disease, hepatic lipidosis, and lifespans shortened by years. The bowl that seems loving is actually removing the very thing that made your cat a cat: their purpose. But here's what most owners don't realize. Free feeding is just the beginning. There's one environmental mistake vets see constantly that doesn't just affect your cat's body, but actually rewires their brain chemistry, creating anxiety disorders that can never fully heal. We'll reveal what that is, but first, you need to understand mistake number 2. Your living room is larger than the territory a feral cat might patrol. You've got a couch, a cat tree, maybe some toys scattered around. It seems like enough space, enough stuff. But your cat is developing what veterinary behaviorists now call indoor cat syndrome, and the cause isn't the size of your home, it's that nothing ever changes. A wild cat encounters hundreds of micro-variations every single day. New scents on the wind, prey moving through different areas, weather shifts. Seasonal changes, the rustle of leaves, the movement of shadows. Their environment is in constant flux, and their brain evolved to process this complexity, to stay sharp and engaged. Your static living room, no matter how large, is sensory deprivation. The same toys in the same spots, the same furniture arrangement, the same view out the same window. Research from UC Davis in 2021 shows that cats need environmental complexity that changes over time. Vertical territory, hiding spots. Novel stimuli introduced and rotated. Without this, they develop learned helplessness and chronic stress. Count how many elevated perches your cat can access right now, surfaces at least 18 inches off the ground. If the answer is fewer than 3, your cat doesn't have sufficient vertical territory. They're living in a psychological flattening of their 3-dimensional instincts. This monotony creates stress, but stress needs an outlet. Which brings us to mistake 3. One that seems hygienic but actually triggers deep psychological distress. You've probably heard the rule: 1 litter box per cat plus 1 extra. But most people don't understand why this matters, so they ignore it. They think it's about cleanliness or convenience. It's not. It's about honoring your cat's deepest vulnerability. In the wild, cats never eliminate near their core territory. They travel to the edges, to neutral zones, because elimination is the moment they're most exposed to predators. They can't run. They can't fight effectively. They're completely vulnerable. This is hardwired into their psychology at the most primal level. Now imagine you're forcing your cat to use a single location for this vulnerable act. Maybe it's in a high-traffic hallway where people walk by. Maybe it's in the basement, which to a cat feels like predator territory, dark and far from safety. Maybe you've used a covered box because it contains odour for you, but for your cat, it traps overwhelming smells in an enclosed space with no escape route. The Journal of Veterinary Behaviour published a study in 2020 showing that 64% of inappropriate elimination cases resolved when owners improved litter box number, location, and privacy. Think about what this means. Nearly 2/3 of cats who were peeing outside the box weren't being spiteful or difficult. They were so stressed by their litter box situation that they'd rather risk your anger than use it. Here's the comparison that makes it clear. Imagine being forced to use a public toilet in a glass box in the middle of your living room, with that same toilet located next to where you eat. That's what inadequate litter box setups feel like to cats, a daily violation of their deepest instincts around safety and cleanliness. Watch your cat the next time they use the litter box. Do they eliminate quickly and leave immediately, or do they linger, explore, maybe scratch around? Quick departures mean discomfort. They're getting out of a space that feels dangerous, but environmental mistakes are one thing. The next mistake is devastating because it comes directly from love and creates something far worse than discomfort. It creates fear of you. Your cat is walking away. Their tail is twitching. Their ears are flattened slightly. Every signal in their body language is saying, "I'm done, I need space," and you reach down and pick them up anyway because you need the comfort of holding them. You're not trying to harm them, you love them. But here's what you've just taught them. Human affection is unpredictable and inescapable. Your needs override their boundaries. Love is something that happens to them, not with them. Cats are consent-based creatures with highly specific social boundaries. Studies published in Applied Animal Behavior Science in 2018 used cortisol measurements to track stress during human interaction. When cats' physical boundaries were violated, even by owners they loved, their stress hormones spiked 400%. 400%. This isn't mild discomfort. This is a neurological alarm system screaming danger. And it's triggered by the person they depend on for everything. Veterinary behaviorists have identified what they call petting-induced aggression. For years, people thought this was a personality flaw, cats being randomly mean. But it's not. It's a trauma response. You've taught your cat that affection can become restraint without warning, so they can never fully relax around you. They develop hypervigilance. Even when you're being gentle, part of their nervous system is monitoring for the moment you'll ignore their signals. Watch your cat's tail during petting. If it starts twitching or thumping, their threshold has been reached. It doesn't matter if they're still purring. Purring can be a self-soothing behavior during stress. If you ignore the tail signal, you're teaching learned helplessness. You're teaching them that their voice doesn't matter. And that brings us to a mistake that's creating something even more insidious. Psychological damage that mimics solitary confinement. You leave for work at 8 in the morning. You come home at 6 in the evening, 10 hours. Your cat is alone in an unchanging environment with no mental stimulation, no social interaction, no ability to engage their hunting instincts. You might think this is fine because cats are independent, solitary creatures, but that's not actually true. Cats are solitary hunters, but they're socially flexible animals who form deep attachment bonds, and they're crepuscular, most active at dawn and dusk, precisely when you're absent. So your cat is awake, alert, biologically primed for engagement during their loneliest hours. Neurological studies on socially isolated cats show measurably smaller hippocampus and elevated baseline cortisol. They're living in chronic stress. Their brains are physically changing in response to isolation. Without interactive play that mimics hunting sequences, their energy has nowhere to go. It doesn't disappear, it becomes anxiety. Those crazy evening zoomies you think are cute. They're not playfulness, they're desperation. Pent-up energy and arousal that's become frantic because there's been no appropriate outlet all day. Here's the human equivalent. You're locked in an apartment with no phone, no books, no ability to control your environment for 10 hours every day. Your thoughts would become obsessive. You'd create rituals just to pass time. You'd deteriorate psychologically. That's solitary confinement. And we do it to creatures we claim to love. Set up a camera and watch what your cat does while you're gone. If they're sleeping 12 or more hours during your absence, that's not contentment. That's learned helplessness. They've shut down because there's nothing else to do. But there's one mistake that goes deeper than all of these. One that creates permanent changes to your cat's brain chemistry and sense of agency in the world. Remember we mentioned one mistake that rewires brain chemistry and creates permanent anxiety? This is it, and it's so common that 95% of cat owners do it unconsciously every single day. The mistake is ignoring your cat's communication, not just missing it occasionally, but systematically teaching them that their voice doesn't matter. Here's what you need to understand. Cats evolved over 100 distinct vocalizations specifically for humans. Adult cats don't meow at each other. That entire language, those chirps and trills and varied meows, developed over 10,000 years of domestication as a bridge between species. Your cat came to you with a language designed specifically to connect with you. Every vocalization is an attempt to communicate needs, emotions, desires. And when you ignore these signals, when you respond inconsistently, when you override their clear no signals, you're not just frustrating them. You're creating learned helplessness at the neurological level. Research from Current Biology published in 2023 shows that cats whose communication is consistently ignored exhibit decreased vocalization over time, elevated stress markers, and increased behavioral problems. They stop trying. You've taught them that their voice, their agency, their needs are irrelevant. Think about what this means in the context of every other mistake we've discussed. You fill the food bowl despite them telling you they want to hunt. You pick them up after they've walked away. You don't respond when they're asking for play during their active hours. You don't notice their slow blink, the feline "I love you." Each ignored communication is a small erasure, but over months and years those erasures add up to something profound. You're teaching a sentient being that they're powerless in their own life. Your cat's entire world is you. And the cruelest thing you can do isn't neglect. It's making them invisible while claiming to love them. Here's your verification. Tomorrow, count how many times your cat vocalizes or signals to you. Then count how many times you respond meaningfully, not with a distracted pat, but with actual acknowledgement of what they're communicating. The gap between those numbers is the measure of their loneliness. The measure of how much of themselves they've learned to suppress because you're not listening. But here's the truth that makes all of this bearable. These aren't personality flaws in you. They're gaps in understanding. Every single mistake we've discussed has a simple solution. Scheduled feeding that mimics hunting, environmental rotation, multiple litter boxes in low-traffic areas, consent-based affection, interactive play during crepuscular hours, and most importantly, learning to listen. Your cat is still trying to talk to you. They haven't given up completely, and the moment you start responding, the moment you start seeing them as a communication partner, rather than a pet who should adapt to your life, everything changes. You're not just improving their welfare, you're entering into the relationship they've been trying to build with you all along. The one where their voice matters, where they're seen, where love is something you create together, not something you impose.